Hi, Mark here from natural-healing-resources.com. Thank you for coming to check out this video, and if you are feeling down or at the moment, I'm sorry you're feeling this way, but I hope that when you come through it, that you feel like me, that it was one of the most helpful experiences, but during it was one of the worst. So I really hope that you're able to come through it at some point soon. What I'm going to share for you is 9 things that I found most helpful, and the first of those was accepting that was not okay. It was quite hard because you just keep going, and then all of a sudden there's a moment where you realise, actually, I'm not okay, and then perhaps that leads to getting the diagnosis. And when you're not okay and you can accept that you need to help, it gives you a foundation to build on, because at that point you're just wailing around. Acceptance is always the foundation which everything can be built on. Acceptance is fundamental, in my opinion, and that was one of the first things that helped me to grow. Number 2, if I had a friend going through a really tough time, I'd be kind, gentle and compassionate, but that's not how I was for myself. And it was learning that, going, oh, actually, I need to treat myself in the same way that I would be to a friend. And so learning to be kind to myself and gentle was almost fundamental. There's a study that I saw about prisoners in Scandinavian country. This Scandinavian country treated their prisoners with kindness and compassion. And what they found is, as soon as prisons treat their prisoners with kindness and compassion, the reoffending rates went down by quite a lot. The countries that brutalise or are really hard on their prisoners have the highest reoffending rates. Doesn't sort of work out logically, but that seems to be the way that it works out. So it's really important that, it was for me to learn to be kind to myself. The third one was pledge to make any changes that I needed to get better. There's a famous saying that says, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So there comes a point where you have to go, right, I'm going to make whatever changes I need to get better. And that was really quite a fundamental thing. I was like, I'll do whatever I need to get better. By sort of going with my instincts on what's right. One of the things that I remember most was at my lowest, I did consider taking my life. And I then remembered that I was sat on my bed and I was like, left means I end it, turn right, walk out that door, and I don't. And still to this day, I still go, right, I've got 2 choices now. I might have more, but which is the best one for me? And I'll always take that one. So it's always looking about options and changes, and sometimes you have to change, and sometimes you have to take the short-term pain to get the long-term gain. And and that's what I've done. The fourth one was, I read all I could. I just absorbed, because my perspective on life wasn't quite right. So I read to gain as many different perspectives from as many different people. The biggest shout out I have to go, the most amazing book I read, and I still sort of class it as mainly helping me, one of the fundamentals of helping me to survive and get through it, was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay. It just connected with who I was as a person, and I then read loads of other books about philosophy and religion and spirituality, and and as much as I could, and loads of self-help books just to get a different perspective. But the key goes to finding those things that sort of resonate with you. Well, for me, sorry, let's keep it on me, because I don't know enough about your situation, and it's up for you to choose whether what I did was right for you. What I did was, if something resonated with me within the book, I would try and implement that into my life and try and change it. And if it worked, and I keep doing it. If it didn't, I'd get rid of it. And that was how I was starting to make the changes. And all those books gave me lots of ideas and perspectives and a new perspective on life. And I think one of the things I learned from the book was what I've got at number 5, and that's appreciate each moment. It's appreciating, find the things that you can be grateful for. And I will totally put my hands up. It was very, very difficult, really, really difficult. But what I was at the time, I was very engrossed just in how hard and horrible things were for me internally and through the depression. And that was my whole world. But just by introducing something that I could be grateful for, even though my whole world was there was still bits to be grateful for. I was grateful for the dog, and I was grateful that I had a bed, and I was grateful I had a roof over my head. And I tried to grow that each day so that the depression wasn't everything of who I was. It was becoming part of who I was, but there was other things as well, and that was really helpful in it. And I tried to grow the things that I was appreciative for, and keep looking to find new things, and that's something that I found quite helpful. In talking of gratitude, it reminds me of I'm not sure whether it's a Zen or a Taoist story, but it sort of links with how I felt at the time and what I was trying to teach myself. And this story says, if someone cuts off my right arm, I'm grateful I've got my left. If someone cuts off my right arm, I'm grateful I've got my legs. If someone cuts off my right leg, I'm grateful I've got my left. If someone cuts off my left leg, I'm grateful I've got my head. If someone cuts off my head, I'm grateful that the knife was sharp. Now, it's quite an extreme story, but it's I could sort of relate to it in the sense that it was dark. I was in a dark, depressed place, and and just finding things to be grateful for helped. Like I'm able, I can move around, I can drive, and all these things. It's just remembering to be appreciative, and I found that quite helpful to me because it started splitting it up as just part of who I was, whereas before I was classing the depression as everything that I was. Now, I'm not saying, moving on to number 6, I'm not saying this is what's right for you, and I would never tell anyone to do what I did, but it was what was right for me. I took one antidepressant. I swallowed it. And the moment I took it, it was prescribed by the doctor, but I took it, I was like, that's not right. That's not who I am. That wasn't right. And I had some interesting conversations with those who obviously cared for me and loved for me when I threw them in the bin. For me, the antidepressants wasn't going to be the right way. I needed to know what I was facing. I needed to know that if I was happy, it was because of me and the choices and the behaviours that I've chose to change and adapt. I didn't feel I could do that with the tablets. That was me. I would never condemn anyone for taking the tablets. It's what's right for each person, and I would never say, don't take tablets. I wouldn't say that, because you have to do what's right for you. But for me, that was right, even though it was a difficult conversation to have with those who clearly cared for me and wanted me to get better too. The 7th one was quite fundamental in helping me sort of get through the end bit, because I still had those trips and dips and troughs and up and downs, and I think it was because I was believing the feelings and believing the thoughts, and I saw a Zen master called Daizan Skinner of Zen Ways. Amazing guy. I was introduced by my yoga instructor, and Daizan sort of highlighted an element to me that I hadn't really thought about before. I was beginning to get to the understanding that in mindfulness we can just watch our thoughts. But point 7 here, this 7th one was really fundamental in me learning not to attach to them. So Daizan said, well, it's not watching your thoughts, not attaching to your emotions, and not attaching to your body, just observing it. And I kept thinking about it, but it wasn't until sort of 6 months later when I was travelling, when I was in Seoul, and I read an article, and this is what it said. It says, this article said, I have a mind, but I'm not my mind. So I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. Because I can't be my thoughts, because my thoughts change. I can think one thing one day, and then I can think something else the next. So the question is, so you're not your thoughts. Okay. I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. I can't be my emotions because my emotions change. One moment I can be angry, and then I can be content. I can be happy. I can be sad. I've got loads and loads. I can be scared. I can be brave. There's just so many contrasting emotions, and they're forever changing. So I have emotions, but I can't be my emotions because that's not who I truly am. I have a body, but I'm not my body. That's not who I truly am, because my body changes. How my body was when I was a baby to how it was now is not the same. And my body can get poorly and it can get better. It can be in pain and then it can not be in pain. It's forever changing. So I can't be my body. So who am I truly? And it said, from the day you're born to the day we die, we are our conscious awareness. We're aware of our thoughts and we just watch them. And we're aware of our feelings and we can just observe them. And we're aware of our body and we can just watch and observe them. And just observing them allows us to be relaxed and be aware. However, the moment we attach to a thought and run with it, or run with a feeling, that's what causes the pain and the dips and troughs. Because it's not thinking, but it's believing the thoughts that hurt us most. So like, if we can just surrender to the feeling of being depressed, and it's just a sensation, there's nothing else, just a sensation, and feel it. There's nothing there. It's just a sensation. It might not be a very nice sensation, but it is just a sensation. And it taught me just to surrender to the feelings and the thoughts. That does not mean acting on them. That just means just let it feel. Let me give you an example. A thought has one purpose, and that's to be thought. So just don't block it, just let it go through. Just let the thought be thought. A feeling has one purpose, to be felt. So just let it be felt. Just surrender to it. Just, as horrible as the feeling may be, just don't put any story to it. It is just a sensation, and just let the sensation go through. And the same with feelings and pain and growing and bodies and illness. It's just not resisting, and just let it go. Now, when I say let it go, it's not acting on the thoughts or feelings. It's just the pure sensation that you're feeling. And I found surrendering to the feelings of it very helpful. Not getting involved in the actions or what's happening, just purely the feelings. And that's something that I found helpful. Again, I wouldn't tell you what you needed to do or not. It's just something that I found helpful. The next one is number 8, and it's like, it's an awareness of going, I don't know enough to make any judgments. At the time, in my depression, I thought the depression was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It was awful, it was horrible. Retrospectively now, for me, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's taken me, if I hadn't have had that, I think I would not be as happy as I am now. I needed that to go through that. I didn't like it, and it was horrible, and it was dark and very, very bad. Well, that's how I felt at the time. Again, I don't know enough to know where it's bad, and you'll see that in the story that I tell you in a moment. But at the time, I felt that, and that's what I thought. Now, I think it was something I needed to go through for me to develop and become better, and live a happier life. So, but not knowing enough to judge, there's a really nice Taoist story about a farmer, and it goes something like this. It says, the farmer asked his son to take his horse to town. About a couple of hours later, the farmer's son came back with no horse. The horse had run away. The neighbours come to the farm and go, oh, how awful. How awful, your son's lost your horse. And the farmer goes, I don't know enough to know whether that's good or bad. It is what it is. A couple of days later, the horse comes back, but bringing 5 stallions with it. And the neighbours come around again and go, wow, farmer, how lucky are you? And the farmer goes, I don't know whether that's good or bad. It is just what it is. I don't know enough about the future to know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And a couple of days later, the son is putting a shoe on one of the new stallions, and the stallion kicks his leg and breaks it. And the neighbours come again and go, how awful, your son's leg is broken. How awful, from one of those new stallions. And the farmer goes, I don't know enough to know whether that's good or bad. It is what it is. I don't know enough about the future to know and judge, because a million things could happen. And the thing does happen. A couple of days later, war breaks out, and all the able-bodied men are expected to be signed up and go to war and fight. And it's a dirty war. It's very unlikely that anyone will come back. The neighbours come round again. Wow, how fortunate you are that your son doesn't have to go to war. And the farmer says, I don't know enough about the future to know whether that's good or bad. It is what it is. And what that says is what it says to me, and what I learned, and it's the 8th lesson, is we don't know whether things are good or bad. They might feel bad, but we honestly don't know enough to judge it. And like I said for me, at the time I felt it was the worst thing ever, being as depressed as I was. Retrospectively now, if I had to guess, I'd say it was probably one of the best things that helped me grow. But again, it is what it is, and I don't know enough. There's still a lot to go on for the future. So yeah, it's but not knowing enough to judge means that we can just embrace the uncertainty and all the possibilities that could happen. There's equal chance that the worst thing could happen, and there's equal chance the best thing ever could happen. Equal chance. So, and because of that, embracing the uncertainty, there's a saying that in uncertainty, everything's possible. And that takes me to the number 9 in the final one, which is everything's possible. Embrace the uncertainty and anything's possible. We don't know enough to know of what could happen next. Anything's possible in this moment. Just be free and open to the best possible thing happening to you. And Thich Nhat Hanh's got a beautiful quote, and it says, because we're alive, anything's possible. And it's a bit like we were saying about the farmer. In this moment, anything can happen. Infinite possibilities. For example, the light could go out. I could fall off my chair. I don't know. A hook come inside and pull me off. You know, lots and different things could happen. We couldn't guess. There's so many possible options. I don't know. A bird could fly in through the window. There's just thousands and thousands of things. And yet, as humans, we try and guess what's going to happen. And just by accepting that anything's possible, it frees us up to live quite an exciting life. And that's the things that have helped me through. And like I said, if any of them resonate with you, perhaps it's worth having a look and go into it a bit further and working out whether it's the best thing for you. Like I said, I would never tell anyone what's right for them, because I don't know enough about your situation to give advice. But that is what has helped me. And should you, like I said, should it help you, I hope it does. If you do have any questions, or you feel that I could answer some questions, or you want to speak to me about anything to do with depression, please do give me a message, or pop in the comments or anything, and I will do my best to get back to you, because I'm to this day grateful for the people who helped me and supported me through the difficult times. And if I can help anyone through their difficult times, I'll do my best. Because at the time it felt very dark for me, and if yours is anything like that, I would be happy to try and support in any way I could, as long as I could. So I wish you all the best, and this is Mark signing off for Natural Healing Resources, and the website, should you want to go and check out our stuff, and our other post is natural-healing-resources.com. Thanks again, and I wish you all the best.